Yeah, my name's Mary Johnston, and I live in Lexington, Massachusetts, and I'm a homemaker. My husband and I raised 6 kids at this address. I've never had a paid career. When my children were young, I raised them. I didn't always stay at home. We were on the road a lot, but yeah, I focused on making a nice home and a lot of volunteer work on the side. I was very active in my church, still am, and the kind of later, when my kids were older, I got involved in DBSA Boston, which is the Depression Bipolar Support Alliance, and I actually am currently on the board. I am the Speaker Series Coordinator. I facilitate, and come June 13th, I'll be the president. So I was diagnosed in 1995. I was 39 years old, and I actually realized afterwards that I'd had a manic episode 12 years before, but it wasn't diagnosed. And a catalyst, yeah, my husband didn't recognize me. In the course of one Sunday afternoon, I just became more and more agitated. What we learned later were the classic manic symptoms, talking fast, not being able to concentrate or pay attention. I had really paranoid thoughts. I thought my daughter was going to be kidnapped. I mean, I really thought it was imminent danger. I was at the emergency department for a while, and then I didn't get better, so they took me to a psychiatric locked unit in Waltham. I think the low point in my illness was actually when I was quite high. I was manic, but my memories of that night are spotty. I remember enough to know I need to take care of it. I don't ever want to be like that again. But when I found myself lying on my back, staring straight up at these people looking down at me, and my wrists and ankles were bound with thick leather restraints, at the time I was just terrified, but obviously when I recovered, they actually injected a powerful antipsychotic into my thigh. I can still feel it. I slept for about a day and a half, and then I woke up in my sane mind and completely shattered. I just couldn't understand what had happened to my brain. I'd always been a smart cookie and kind of lived by my brain, and all of a sudden it had just, unspeakably failed me. Yeah. I think I've hurt people through my behavior, especially in manic depression. I feel like I could have done more with my life. I'm happy with my life, but in those times when I've been depressed, I just have not been able to really interact with the world, and felt terrible about myself, and felt like everybody, if they knew me, they'd hate me. Nobody hates me because I won't let them know me, right? The main one is medication. And I've been lucky that the medication does work for me well. I just need to take it, which I do. And the sleep is huge. I have to make sure I get enough sleep. And so I monitor that. I have a spreadsheet and I write it down every day, how much sleep I got, calculate it. Spreadsheets are great. Okay, in the last 7 days, okay, that's okay. Got to watch it, go to bed a little earlier. I exercise regularly. I eat well. Care. I have therapy. I talk with my nurse practitioner. So I work hard at it, and of course, if I didn't have bipolar, I'd have more free time than that. But it's worth it, and the impact. Those things are good to do, so that's kind of a positive impact to be focused on them. But also, there is always that worry that the medication will stop working, or when I do have a sleepless night, oh, am I going to go manic again? I try not to give a lot of advice, but I will say, from, as we say in DBSA, from my own experience, it's important, if you can tolerate it, to find a good medication, have a good doctor or nurse practitioner that will help you find a medication. So in '95, I was hospitalized. I took my medication faithfully for 7 years and then got tired of it and stopped taking it, which was maybe the worst decision of my life. I've had a pretty good life. I've been safe from really bad decisions, but that one was pretty bad. And since then, sometimes I try to tweak it, but I've taken my medication. It's seductive. So hypomania is so seductive, and it's so easy to say, and I've done this, to say, oh, well, I'm a little bit high, but I'll be okay. And hypomania is great. I've never had a drug as good as hypomania. And yeah, you need more sleep. I mean, who wants to sleep their life away? And I'm more productive, and I have great ideas. The problem is I can't put the brakes on it. And the medication puts the brakes on it, and sometimes that's frustrating. But and I guess that's a piece of advice I would give is, in my experience, I've had a better life having the medication, monitoring and keeping an more even keel even when it's not a lot of fun. I'm actually writing a book about my experience. I've read a lot. I've probably read 20 memoirs about mostly bipolar, but mental illness memoirs. And the thing that everyone that I've read is missing is an outside observer. It's all very effective in, oh, this is what it was like to be manic or depressed or whatever. And I certainly have that story, as you've heard. But what is it like for other people? I hired a man who's interviewing my husband, my kids, my siblings, my good friends, my local spiritual leaders. Yeah, what's it like to watch somebody go manic? They have a very different perspective than I had. You know, when in my experience, one of the pernicious things about bipolar is that in the moment it feels real. I really thought my daughter was going to be kidnapped. I really thought XYZ. I really thought when I only needed 4 hours of sleep that was a good thing and I could keep doing that for the rest of my life, and it wasn't true. And it's been really enlightening, sometimes humbling to hear, oh, you know, that really embarrassed my son when I did that, you know, or whatever. But I think it's important to fight misunderstandings or misconceptions people have, but also to be honest about, yeah, you know, I hurt people when I'm symptomatic. It's just the way it is, and I'm sorry about it. But yeah, you know, it's a disorder. It's a disease. So DBSA is a Depression Bipolar Support Alliance, and I first heard of it when I came out of the hospital in 1995, and I went, and I remember being terrified. I was there in this newcomers group and just kind of like, oh, these people are really sick. I'm not like that. Well, I guess I am. What am I doing here? So I went, not every week, but I went quite a bit. And then when like I said, I stopped taking my medication. I ended up back in the hospital. That was in 2003. And at that point I said, okay, I've got to up my game here. I've got to, self-care needs to be more of a thing. And so I started going to DBSA regularly. And about 7 years later, when my youngest went off to college, I actually trained to be a facilitator. And so I've been doing that for about 12 or 13. Someone asked me to take over the speaker series, which is once a month we get a speaker on a mental health issue. And then last 2 years I've been on the board and very excited about that. I actually facilitate the newcomers group regularly, and that is very satisfying because I'm meeting people that are in a crisis or have just been through a crisis, and I tell them, you know, I was where you were. I could tell you the seat in the room I was sitting in, and that was years and years ago. So it's just very satisfying to be able to facilitate groups and on the board to help keep the organization going. Well, I guess I would hope for, in the general public, more understanding of just what it is, and less fear. I think we all fear things that we don't understand. And as the organization, I'll put in a plug. I would love to see more people train as DBSA facilitators, because we could reach so many more people. We are actually limited by the number of facilitators we have. We're pretty much at capacity. Yeah, and it's a great place for people to get together, to make friends, to support each other, to kind of know. The thing I love about DBSA is it's a place where people get it. You know, obviously not everybody there has been in restraints and been psychotic the way I have, but I find one or two every once in a while, and that's wonderful. I mean, very sad that they have had that, but it's wonderful to connect, to say, yeah, I've been depressed too, and yeah, it's not just the blues. It's really an illness that is really hard to deal with. And it's a place where we can talk confidentially. Like I say, I haven't had a lot of experience with stigma. I haven't had a career, but for many people, DBSA is a place where they can go and in a private, confidential place talk about their experiences and their struggles and know that it's not going to leave the room.